What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We are talking all things episode 5 of Agatha All Along. As always, like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so when we drop new content, you'll be the first one to know about it. Then share this sucker all across the multiverse. If you go back and watch my episode 5 predictions and forecast, I was about 4 for 6. There's a couple things. I thought the episode would be a little more Green Witch heavy than it was, but the things we got were excellent. I think episode 5 being mid-season, getting some of these twists and some of these things early on was excellent. The reveal at the end was amazing, followed by the Billie Eilish song, just absolutely beautiful. Did not expect an episode of a show that what I would consider mid-tier to go this hard. It was really excellent. It was really awesome. But let's get into it. First and foremost, we got a lot of flashbacks, a lot of things at the beginning, flashbacks of things from WandaVision about Agatha's past, about her coven trying to get rid of her and then her absorbing their powers. You find out in a narration, I thought we'd get it in a flashback, but you find out in a narration from Lilia that when Agatha's coven tried to kill her, she ended up killing them by absorbing their powers. We saw that in WandaVision. But their children are the ones that rose up and became the Salem 7. So we found out who the Salem 7 were, that they, for whatever reason, they've been tracking her for a lifetime, honing their powers or whatever. Maybe there's some other reason they became as evil as they did, or maybe they're just a very powerful coven. Who knows? But we find out that they get that they're able to get onto the Witch's Road because, according to Lilia, when they resurrected the Green Witch after Miss Hart died, they left the door open, so to speak. And so the Salem 7 were able to get into the Witch's Road to track them down. They're coming after Agatha. A lot of things happen there, but basically a chase scene to get them away. We have some scenes where the witches work together to create brooms to fly on. They get away. The road pulls them towards the next challenge. Which is where I was wrong. I did not think we would get a challenge this time. I thought we would kind of stretch that out. There'd be some other things going on. But we get a challenge, and it becomes, we realize that it's Agatha's challenge. There were a lot of references to death in this episode. Obviously, I think Aubrey Plaza's character, Rhea Vidal, is a version of death or an agent of death. There is a Funko Pop character that seems to have leaked that. But there's a lot of references to death in this episode. You know, don't talk about death, all these kind of things that for whatever reason, either the Witch's Road knows that or maybe Rio is handling these things. But Rio's character acts very differently in these situations than the rest of them do. They are all fearful of their lives. She is not. Maybe because she doesn't have a life to be fearful of. But we get into Agatha's trial here. And we find out through this Ouija board that they're going to have to summon some spirits. Now, one other little interesting tidbit we found out there was that Lilia says that she's, as a diviner, she's not actually the one that is able to speak to the dead. That's not one of her powers. But it is that Lilia's power in terms of divination is about time and being able to predict the future and see into those kind of things. More of a psychic type thing that she kind of fakes the other stuff, which to me begs the question, in the first trial when she sees these visions of these bodies, is she haunted? Is this something that did happen that she's seeing that happened, or is it something that's going to happen? Either way, there are several little tidbits if you go back the whole time. Lilia's character, when she has these little episodes where they think she's going crazy, she was actually warning Alice to not attack Agatha. Don't save her. Don't do this. Don't do that. And it kind of comes to a head here in this episode where Alice, in an effort to get Agatha's mother's body out of her ghost out of her because she's possessed, pushes her power onto Agatha, because remember, Alice has her power again after her, and so does Jen, because after their 2 trials, they were unbound in some sense, or they were able to use their powers in different ways. Jennifer used hers to be able to heal the teen, and Alice is using hers here. Her curse is lifted, and so she has her power. And the coven is growing stronger. But as she uses her power, For some reason, Agatha ends up absorbing her power. Agatha later on says she couldn't help it. She doesn't know why. And given some things that Agatha's mother says about you were evil from the moment you came out of my body, I should have gotten rid of you then, to me says that there's something about Agatha's power that she doesn't understand, that they don't understand, and they were going to kill her to begin with. So it wasn't that Agatha turned on her coven, and that's what made her evil. That's what she's known for, because the living tend to make the history, right? All of the rest of her coven, her mother's coven, died, and she's been chased by the Salem Seven ever since. And so if you go back and look at that flashback, Agatha doesn't actually absorb their powers actively. She's tied up, and so it's being absorbed into her. And when she realizes what she's doing, then it's almost like she fights back. In this scene, Agatha says she couldn't control it. Alice's power ends up being absorbed into her, and it appears as though Alice is dead. I don't think Alice is dead for multiple reasons, but we'll get into that in just a second. But I think the whole challenge there was for them to save Agatha, that they are supposed to choose to not punish her, that they're supposed to find a way to deal with the situation rather than hurting one another, because the witch's road is about strengthening the coven, not about some magical genie wishing thing that if you get to the end of it, you get your power. And so I think we're going to find that out. I think this group is slowly becoming a coven, but how the new revelations we got at the end of this episode and what happens here actually makes the last half of this season really, really juicy. The character development and the choices that they're going to have to make, we can kind of figure some of those based off of some of the trailers and some of the sneak peeks we've gotten of different things, different shots that we've seen of things that haven't happened in the show yet. I kind of have an inkling of an idea of where they're going, and we'll talk about that in our episode 6 forecast that's going to be coming on Monday. But in this scene here, the teen is trying to help in his own way. He goes back to the Ouija board as Alice is trying to push Agatha's mother out of her body. All of that power transfer thing is going on. Alice is dying, and in order to break Agatha out of it somehow, the teen realizes that they're communing with Nicholas Scratch. And in order to end the challenge, he says his name. Agatha stops, but then the Ouija board goes to goodbye. And so remember, one of the rules was they were not supposed to let go of the Ouija board. After Agatha's mother appears, they let go of the Ouija board. So the whole idea of leaving the door open, maybe somebody else pops in, maybe something else is going on. Maybe it was Agatha's son that was doing something, and the teen saying, Nicholas Scratch was not actually waking Agatha up, but it was stopping the other person that was possessing Agatha's body. I don't know that to be true, but either way, I think this was probably 80% proof that Nicholas Scratch actually is dead. Now, whether or not he pops up on the road, whether or not we see flashbacks about him, I think are a possibility. But I think that being a part of Agatha's past that she can't really reconcile is going to play into what does happen in the future, more so than her getting her son back or us finding out that her son is someplace else. After we get out of here, they're all back on the road except for Rio, who is still in the challenge. She doesn't actually appear on the road. If the Lady Death moniker is to be believed, she would be helping either resurrect or usher Alice's body to the other side because she is death. She could have been doing something else, but she is mysteriously absent from this exchange. Maybe she knew what was going on. But as Agatha gets back on the road, she opens up her hand, and it looks as though she's trying to use power. I would argue that the orangish reddish power is not Alice's power popping up in her, but because Agatha survived the challenge, she now is released from that in some way, shape, or form. She has some of her power back. And this movement of her manifesting some power and then it just vanishing away, I would argue that perhaps that is the last bit of Scarlet Witch influence that had taken over Agatha. And as soon as that is gone, Agatha has all of her senses back. We see a change in her tone. We see a change in her attitude as she confronts the teen. And she knows who he is. And as soon as she reveals who he is to him, as soon as it is known, he gets his power. Now, I would assume, now this could be he put a sigil on himself so that he could get close to Agatha, so he could get rid of her somehow. I am more want to think that somewhere along the way, Wanda put a sigil on both of her children because she did not want them to grow up being known as powered individuals. That somewhere along the way, she put this spell on them so that they wouldn't be able to tell people who they were. And the only way that they would be able to use their powers would be if somebody found out who they were. So that for all of their lives, they would be able to live as normal human beings. They would be able to hide. They'd be able to live out a normal life if something ever happened to her. As soon as somebody finds out, the key to that, the catch to that would be as soon as somebody finds out who you are, your power is unleashed, you're released from that sigil so that you can protect yourself. Because at that point, if everybody knows who you are, it doesn't matter. That's the point where the teen's powers are unlocked and the crown that appears on his head with the signature scrolling that looks like Scarlet Witch scrolling, that crown is the crown of Wiccan. That means that the teen is Billie Maximoff or some version of Billie Maximoff. Could be Billy Kaplan. It's another version in the comics that is still basically Billie Maximoff. But the son of Wanda, and that he has his powers. He pushes away the other witches, causes them to sink into the mud. We would assume they were dead. They are not dead because everybody would be gone, unless, of course, Rio comes out and says, oh, you can't kill them, and she pops them all back to life. I suppose that's one possibility. I would venture to guess that they all have to start the road over, that they get absorbed by the road, they get thrust back to the beginning of the road, and then all of them, minus Billie, have to then redo the road. They have to go back through the challenges. They have to do these things because it's all about strengthening the coven. That the road never kills you, but you have to complete the challenges. You have to have a coven. You have to be together. So now, not only do they have to complete the challenges together, but Billie is somewhere out there as well. I think the storyline is far more plausible that Agatha somehow has some kind of change of heart. She decides to befriend Billie in order to train him or in order to help him find his mother. I think her having an adopted son that is the son of what she would consider her enemy is a far meatier storyline than her getting her own son back and Wiccan just walking off into the sunset. So all of these things were really awesome. I liked all of these things. I also think, again, that Alice is not dead simply because during her storyline in episode 4, there were lines in the song that they sang about her being able to meet her mother at the end of the road. And so I think these characters are going to pop back up. I think that we're going to get a recap of some things, get it in a different way, that this is the moment where the story starts to diverge, and how do these characters interact with that? How do they interact with Agatha? And what is Wiccan going to go off and do now? Because they're all on the road and they're actually scattered. So I'm really curious what you guys think. Did you pick up on some of these things? What did you think about the ending of the episode? I think it was the best episode so far. All of the episodes have actually been really excellent. The reveal of Billie was amazing and really perfectly timed. It was a very short episode, but it was a fulfilling and complete episode from start to finish. Curious what you guys think. You know the drill, so click the buttons, do the things, share the video, and check out some of our other content. You know we got a lot of other things to sink your teeth into. And as always, guys, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later.